like the movie needed him. It was like, oh, it's like the white man saving the black people.
There was only one part though. It's not like
But it was a big part.
I thought he did that as more of a courtesy after the kindness that they had showed him. I didn't think he saved the day. It was a whole army out there fighting.
Yeah.
It was a whole war going on. So he did like a small part. Especially me recently watching it. I was like, man, he seemed like a hoe compared to them. Like, sure, he had him on the table, called him a colonizer, just put shit in his spine like, yo, shut up, dog. Your medicine is weak. They showed enough of him not being strong that it was fine.
So it was fine as long as she emasculated.
There you go. Right. They called him a colonizer. M'Baku wouldn't let him talk.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cinecism. I'm Eric.
It's your boy Dante, man, and today is a very special episode. We have a lovely new guest, the wonderful, amazing Miss Tatianna.
Yeah, it's the wife right here.
Hi.
Today we also going to be doing a throwback review. This will be the first of many. In light of the new news of Chadwick Boseman's passing, we thought it would be only fitting to do the Black Panther.
Black Panther was introduced in Captain America Civil War. We kind of followed his story after his father's passing and him taking on the mantle of Black Panther. And it touches on a lot of different themes and aspects of just African culture and American black culture.
I thought this movie did a great job of picking up where Civil War left off. You get to see a lot more about his family, which I really enjoyed, and you get to learn a lot more about Wakanda in general.
So you got the main character, of course, T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman. He's kind of coming to terms with him being the new ruler of Wakanda in a position where he has to face challenges that he didn't feel like he was necessarily prepared for, like ruling a nation, when he just felt like it was a little premature for him. Of course, he makes mistakes as any young ruler would, but he's constantly learning from those mistakes and improving.
Not only is he taking on the mantle of king, but he's also still in mourning of his father's passing, dealing with the loss of your father, who clearly was a big influence in his life, or probably essentially his hero. But to also take on the new responsibility of ruling an entire kingdom of people who probably are a little bit lost after losing their king as well. He exudes a very kingly-like vibe, like it's very prestigious. You believe that he is royalty.
I think it made it easier for him to, you know, kind of come out, because I feel like he already had the respect of the people, the respect from Wakanda, because his dad was such a good leader. I think the people of Wakanda were more accepting of him.
You got Shuri, who is honestly one of my favorite characters in the movie. She's T'Challa's sister, the inventive tech genius of Wakanda. She's responsible for a lot of their tech, their weaponry. They have a great relationship.
Yeah, I was about to say, I love their chemistry.
Yeah, you completely believe that they was brother and sister, man. Just from the joking. Because he got a lot more of a serious demeanor, and she brought like a youthfulness to it. He's not naturally, clearly a jokester. Like, I don't think that's him.
He's very like stoic.
But she brought them qualities out of him, which I really enjoyed about their relationship.
I think she had a swag about her. Like, I love to see her, like her outfits, how she is, and obviously I'm down for any smart woman. I like the fact that it was a woman. I like the fact that it was her sister, and I just love her swag.
She had a bop. Yeah, I was like, okay.
And a sense of humor, so I'm here for it.
Yes.
Well, Sawa Okoye, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, because she was a prominent figure in the movie as well. Okoye is, she's T'Challa's general in his royal guard. I mean, she cold. Like, what else can I say?
That's my favorite.
That's my
favorite character.
Only because, like, normally, like in movies, like with black women, when they're presented as strong, it's because they've been hurt, lied to, they've been through something. But she just was strong in herself, like what she represented for Wakanda, and she basically held down her country. It didn't matter. Like, even when he was getting thrown.
Yeah.
You know, it was still, she had a respect and a love for her country, so she was going to fight for it.
I love Okoye, man. Just this natural strength about her. You just feel T'Challa ain't nothing going to happen to him while she is by his side.
I love the scenes with the Royal Guard. It was
my God.
It was just such a presence, man. Like,
you want to talk about M'Baku?
M'Baku was, he was part of the Jabari tribe. Yeah. Is it outside of Wakanda? Or
no, I think it's still within Wakanda. It's just up in the mountains.
Just another tribe, separate tribe?
Yeah.
And then M'Baku was the leader of the Jabari tribe. Him and T'Challa had like a rivalry. Seemed to have been some love lost between T'Challa's tribe and his people and the Jabari tribe at some point. By the end of the movie, you know, they seem to be like a mutual respect. And then you see them in other movies and, you know, they fighting alongside each other.
Yeah.
So it's a relationship that grew not only within this movie, but over the span of several other movies.
Yeah, they seem to be pushed out. Not so much they wanted to be on the outskirts, but just from the way they dress and everything, I'm not sure if they were in line with a lot of the technological advances. Like, they seem to be regressed in that sense and maybe traditionalists in the way of life. He was scary as shit when you first seen him with that gorilla mask.
Yeah, I think he was I think he's eight man in the comics, which he's a big Black Panther villain, but they made him more of like an anti-hero in the movie.
Yeah, he was cracking some jokes in his jaw. Like, oh, all right, okay, my man's got a sense of humor.
Let's talk about Eric Killmonger or Eric. Yeah, played by Michael B. Jordan, who was he's the primary villain in the movie. And man, I really enjoyed his performance. But I've talked to some people that didn't. They thought he was like stereotypical or some shit. But I mean, I didn't necessarily agree with some of his methods.
Yeah.
I understood where he was coming from.
Yeah.
He was threatening.
Yeah.
What do you think about his Michael B. Jordan performance?
Well, besides it being Michael B. Jordan,
all right.
I will say he did do a good job. I just liked his energy. I kind of like just his personality. Like, I would laugh at things that maybe I'm not supposed to. I don't know. Some points I felt like it was kind of hard to take him serious. But that's just for me, like, you're watching it, you know.
Oh, that challenge shit over with.
Right, I'm like, is that the script?
Right.
And trying to shit over, nigga.
Yeah, I love when he walked in and he was like, "What's up, auntie?"
Yeah.
And that was a good part.
The great thing about him, like, you know, and that's the sign of a strong villain, because when you think about the quotables for this movie, a lot of them come straight from him. Like, that hate auntie shit kind of took on a life of its own. The thing that makes a good villain is to be able to show a good background and a good reasoning of why they do the things that they do. Because that's kind of how the world works, right? Like, people aren't really good and evil. It's kind of depend on perspective and where you stand. Correct.
It's not all black and white.
Exactly. So one person, something could seem evil, to another person, it could seem like liberation or whatever. So I thought they did a great job of showing why he was doing the things he did. And like you said, his methods was extreme. But in some instances, I was like, damn, I felt him. You know, he kind of felt betrayed by his people that killed his daddy, you know what I'm saying? It was a lot of real shit he was holding on to. Man, when he delivered some of them lines, especially his ending line.
Like, how could you not feel that? That was deep for me. Obviously, I still remember. Yeah, like you said, you just understand why he did the things that he did.
Correct.
But like, yeah, his methods were crazy.
And you brought up a good point. It's like, you like him. He likable.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It ain't just evil for the sake of it. It's like, damn, he charming, he funny.
Yeah.
You know, he was cracking jokes.
He ain't gonna be kicking it with him.
No. I wouldn't hanging with the boy. Oh, Claus.
Yeah, secondary. He's
we got to mention Claus. Yeah, we got to.
Who's played by Andy Serkis. Like, in the comics, he's actually like Black Panther's nemesis. So I was surprised with the direction they took with his character. They killed him, and I was expecting him to see him in future movies. I love Andy Serkis in anything I see him in, and he was dope. Like, he was a very charismatic villain as well. He wasn't just a mustache twirling villain. I mean, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah,
but he was a realistic villain. Like, realistically, if this country existed, men like him would exist too, trying to exploit the country. So he was also a menace. He wasn't just a villain to take lightly.
He wasn't as fleshed out as Killmonger's character. Like, his motivations was a little bit more bare bone. Like you said, he was all about the Benjamins. I think that played well to Killmonger because he was a little bit more serious.
They were kind of an uneasy alliance. You got other big names in there. You had Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker was in there.
Sterling K. Brown.
Lupita Nyong'o.
This one of the movies where the cast as a whole, even from the smallest character that you introduced to, you just fuck with everybody. Man, my favorite moment in this movie was the scene in the casino or wherever they was trying to capture Claude.
That was probably one of the best action scenes for sure.
Not only was it the best shot scene, like, in my opinion, just seeing everybody get busy at one time, man. Like, you see that at the end too, but it's not as focused because it's more of an army at the end. This is like focused on Okoye, focused on T'Challa, focused on Nikita. Yeah, and even Claude, like, they zoomed in on him. He had a lot of moments.
He was doing damage in there.
Yes. When he shot him with He's like, you look just like your dad.
He was like, oh, I just made it rain.
I made it rain.
I mean, I like at the end, obviously, we talked about the general, and I really liked her role. I like in the end when she finally realized, like, she had to take back over, even though, like, she pledged to her country.
When she realized that T'Challa was still alive, you know what I'm saying?
That's when, yeah, that's true.
That's when she kind of got back on board, because it's like, who else you going to be loyal to? There's no other king. There's no other alternative. They assumed that T'Challa was dead. So when he reappeared, it was like, oh, no, fuck this nigga. Like, we didn't want to roll with you anyway. Roll with my boy. He back. T'Challa.
One of my favorite scenes was not even necessarily an action scene, but like the ancestral plane scenes when T'Challa was meeting with his father.
Oh my God.
Because we didn't really get to see him and his dad have any kind of exchange of dialogue. When we see him in Civil War, I mean, his dad is getting assassinated. So we didn't really get to see those moments when they're like just talking. Something about that scene and the ambiance and the sky and everything, it just looked really, it was just pleasant to look at, and it just made, it was like a warm feeling.
There's a few scenes in this movie that gave me chills, like when I watched it. Both of the times when he saw his father, because I thought it was two impactful conversations. But man, that music too, man, that they played with them strings and the violins. And when he saw his dad and was reunited with him and got to talk to him about just taking on the mantle of king, that conversation. And then my favorite one that he had with him was at the end when he was like, why didn't you take him like back to the village? Like that was just, oh my God, it was so powerful.
They literally created a monster.
Yeah. At that point, he was near death, and they was trying to welcome him to the ancestral plane. He was like, dog, I can't leave because of the mess that y'all essentially created. I'm gonna have to, I gotta go back. Like, I can't leave it like this. I can't leave him in charge, and it's really not his fault. You could tell he had a high respect for his father, and he was extremely disappointed that he just had left him like that, you know, essentially to fend for himself when he should have came with his own people. So yeah, them ancestral scenes was impactful.
And I think it was very telling, especially like within the African American community, because a lot of times, like, you know, when you think about your elders, like your grandparents and things like that, like they probably made moves and did things that they felt like was best for them back then that we just wouldn't even do in our generation because it's not even acceptable. Like a lot of things are kind of like thrown under the rug and you kind of just keep it moving. So I think that shed light on the community.
That's actually
a great point. Yeah.
Really good point. I thought the display of just different types of black people was great too, because that's on full display too. Like the different shades of brown and the visuals of this movie in terms of how people came across on screen did a great job. They did a great job with distinguishing
between the different. I was going to say that too, between the different tribes. People think Africa is one country when it's a continent full of multiple different countries.
Right.
It's not like the U.S. Oh, you got Africa, a whole continent full of I don't even know how many countries.
Right.
So, of course, those are going to have, you know, distinguishing qualities about each other.
If you think about just the U.S., it's completely different culture. If you go to New York
just from state to state,
and go to Mississippi, it's like day and night. It's a completely different culture. So just imagine that for a whole continent. The end scene, come on, man. Yeah, man, just the end when he actually killed him. Throughout the whole movie, you kind of see him. He called him his cousin, you know, everybody's aunt. It's like, damn, they family, and you don't want to really see them. And plus, you can tell that T'Challa is remorseful about everything that's happened to him.
He didn't want him to die.
No, he didn't. But it was like he was too far gone at that point. His ideals were so warped. It's like you couldn't even reason with that man. So that was the only option. He even gave him the option to heal him. He said he'd rather take death, which I completely felt him. It was like, damn, you don't want to live your life as a prisoner. That, to me, that was the most powerful line in the movie. He delivered it well.
I watched some interviews where that wasn't even originally in the script. Chadwick Boseman actually had asked them were they open to Killmonger's character, you know, being buried somewhere else, because I think they were going to do like a traditional like burial for him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he actually was talking with Ryan and Coogler, and they came up with, you know, something different. So I thought that was kind of good. Originally, it was just supposed to be like a regular ceremonial.
That's really dope. Now let's clown it, I guess. After we done said all that.
As far as negatives, I don't really have a lot. The biggest one that stood out for me was just the CG. Marvel movies, sometimes the CG be spotty, but in this particular one, that last fight scene, I think that's probably the one that people talk about the most when they talk about the CG in this movie. It just, it was way cartoony, man. Just a 100% animated movie in some parts. But that was really the only time it was like glaring to me. The fight scene between Killmonger and Black Panther at the end.
It went straight PS4. Like, it is so obviously bad. You know, it's just not well incorporated into the real realism of the movie. There's a scene like that with the train and them falling. It's like hard to not. You can't use practical effects for that. A part of me was wishing that they maybe would have took it back to that waterfall. Somehow ended up there, and they could have just had the natural fight that they had when he threw T'Challa off the waterfall. It would have been a lot more of a, to me, even meaningful, because it's like going back to him losing to him. He kind of wins this time.
As far as the fight scene location for me, I kind of appreciated where it was. It was in the like root of the conflict, really. They were literally in the vibranium cave. So the location didn't bother me as much. I mean, I see what you're saying, though. It would have been dope to see him like take it back to that location. But I mean, I just wish, like you said, it just would have been a little bit more practical and just better looking. That's it.
The only reason I say that is because it didn't look good. I'm like, if I would have saw that, if I was Ryan Coogler in the editing room, I'm like, look, nigga, we going back to the waterfall. Right? Y'all niggas falling look like Toy Story.
I could have did without the rhinos. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I just didn't understand the purpose of them. Like, if I'm thinking, like, I just don't understand why they were necessary.
Were they killing each other? Because it sure looked like they was getting stabbed. Rhinos
over that, didn't they?
Right.
They was knocking people back that ain't have no kind of special ability for several hundred feet.
Yo, we cool? Like, hey, I killed man my friends and shit.
That was actually a sad part because they were fighting each other. Like, you know,
I hated
they
it.
didn't need to do that.
Of course, we've got the recent news that Chadwick Boseman, the wonderful actor that plays Black Panther, has recently passed. Inspirational why we even chose to do this particular throwback. For me personally, Chadwick Boseman was one of my favorite actors, especially. It's hard to call him a newcomer because he's been around for a while, but he is still kind of in the newer realm. Watching him play James Brown, watching him play 42 Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall. He was one of them people that I felt like could transform into any role. Extremely talented. Because, I mean, you think about him playing T'Challa, all those people are just very different. And that speaks to his range and his unbelievable talent, man. He'd definitely be missed. Prayers and condolences, of course, to his family.
One of my favorite actors as well. It's just one of those things. It's like you just never really appreciate somebody, you know, as much as you should until, and not that I know him personally, but it's like, you know how you take things for granted sometimes. You just assume some people or things are always going to be there, and some shit like this happens suddenly. It just really puts things in perspective for you. The movie that made me a fan of his was probably James Brown. I think that was probably one of my favorite performances of his.
Same.
He's just one of those great talents that's just gone too soon.
For me, I was surprisingly emotional about it. Like you said, he had been around for a while, but like I felt like he was just starting to hit his stride. Like it was no different than like a Nipsey Hussle. Like Nipsey, you knew about him, he'd been around, he'd been in the game, but I felt like when he left, he was just getting ready to like take off, and that's how I felt about him.
Same.
And he just always had like a kind spirit about him. Like when he was in front of interviewers, doing TV promo, he just seemed like a warm individual. So like for me, I was sad. I'm like, gosh, I don't even know this man, but I know what he represented.
I felt the exact same way when Nipsey passed. You said you kind of hit the nail on the head. I felt the exact same way. It's like, damn, you just thinking about where their trajectory was heading and how they'll never really get to that point, even though I'm sure his legacy will inspire. At the same time, you want to see them live out their legacy, you know. So
I would have loved to see him in the sequel to Black Panther.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, just the person he was even beyond the screen. Like he just seemed to exude this positive energy. Every time I saw him, he was smiling. He seemed genuine. Like, you know, I know we always talk about artists, whether it be musicians or actors that we love. Like, we don't know them, but you get a sense of them. I think the way he came across, and from just seeing the outpour of the people that did know him, what they've been saying about him, what we felt about him was correct, which is that he was a kind-spirited person and just had a really good energy, man.
You know, I just watched Black Panther again for the second time. I hadn't seen it since I saw it in theaters, and I just had a more of an appreciation for it this time around for some reason. I don't know if it had anything to do with Chadwick's passing or not, but I don't know, man. I just appreciated it more the second time. Overall, I really enjoyed Black Panther, man. I thought it was a very different movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even though it still felt like it was part of that universe, it had a very different tone and feeling and aesthetic to it. So I really appreciated that. Even with the little, you know, minor issues I had with the movie, it was still very enjoyable to me. So I'm going to give Black Panther a 8.5 out of 10.
For me, I liked the movie a lot. It was probably my third time watching it when we watched it again this week. I had a real appreciation for it because I know what it meant for the Black community. I knew what it represented for the Black community. And it wasn't just like a Black movie. You know, it was a superhero movie that happened to be focused in Africa, in Wakanda, with Black people. So I felt like that was a win for us. The women for me were like the best part of the movie. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10.
This movie is bigger than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. Just like how people talk about when Star Wars came out, they dressed up and did the whole nine, or when some of these other Marvel movies came out. This movie kind of encompassed a fan base of not just Marvel fans, but it kind of tapped into just something within the Black community, man. And it was a person, not only a comic book fan, but a Black person, and you really appreciated this movie and what it gave you. I'd probably give Black Panther a 9.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to our first throwback review for Black Panther. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Tatiana, thank you for being here for our very first special
Thanks
guest.
for having me, guys.
Of course.
As always, don't forget to like and share, subscribe to our channel. And if you have any content that you would like to see us review, whether it be a movie, a trailer, or a show, series, you can drop a comment below with any suggestions you might have.
If you guys, of course, you probably have seen Black Panther. I'm not even going to play y'all like that. So when y'all saw Black Panther, drop the comments below. Let us know your favorite parts, favorate characters.
We'd like to know what your favorite Chadwick Boseman performance was, too.
Good point.
Yeah. And always like, share, and comment.
But thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all.
We appreciate y'all.
Bye.
Peace.